Hello everyone, Carnasa here, and welcome back to a build episode on the Kerbal Gets Real series. Now, it's 1964, it's July 1964, and we've got a Mars window coming up in 100 days. So, what I'm going to do, I quite want to go and visit Phobos and Deimos. So this is going to be the survey probe for exploration and reconnaissance of Mars, asteroids, rocks, and other interesting objects. The 1964 version, or if you'd like, in short, the Super Mario 64. So yes, I definitely did not spend a really long time coming up with that name. So let's get straight into this build. It's going to be a relatively simple build. We don't really need an awful lot to go to Phobos and Deimos. I'm not sure if I'm going to go to both. One thing that I do want to do is I do want to land on them, because actually, once you get to Phobos and Deimos, it's not that much more. As soon as you've got an orbit, it really doesn't take that much more to actually get a landing. So, yeah, we might as well land on them if we can. Well, we should be able to, as long as we get an orbit. I think it's only about something like an extra 10 meters per second that you need to land. So, yeah, it doesn't require a lot at all. Right, anyway, let's sort out our communications. So we want to go to Mars. Let's see, this antenna is more than capable of transmitting everything back. So yep, we're gonna use this. That will be fine. Obviously, we're gonna have our deep space avionics. And recently, I've been going for a little bit of a new probe design when we go interplanetary, or anything really. So what I do is I get this modular girder adapter. I tweak scale it down to 50%. And then I whack on the bottom of it a integral tank, and now this is going to be our fuel for this stage. So we're going to fill that up, probably with Aerosine and NTO. I am pretty sure that's what we will be filling it up with. We're only going to need a little small engine, because if we are going to be landing on Phobos and Deimos, so obviously, it is only, like I just mentioned, around, well, a very small amount of delta V, so we want a kind of small engine so that we don't really shoot off and make it harder for ourselves to land. Okay, so yes, let's configure this 0.44 kilonewtons engine, the MR104. Let's configure that to Aerosine and NTO. Sweet. Actually, what mod is this from? So, RO Engines mod. Okay, because yeah, I did notice someone asked what these shiny engines were from. So yes, it's from the RO Engines mod, that engine. Okay, so let's fill this up with Aerosine. We've sorted all of that out, and we get 3,188 meters per second of delta V already. That's quite a lot. It's quite a lot indeed. So how much do we weigh? Yeah, let's keep this up. About a ton at the moment. So let's put this up to a ton for now. I've got new avionics, which is brilliant, so less mass and less power usage, and yeah, it's all really good. So let's go into the tank user interface and just set this down to 20 electric charge. We are going to be going to Mars, so I am going to be using RTGs. So actually, no, I'm not gonna do that yet. Actually, one thing that I do with this new series of probes, I guess you could call them, is I like having these struts on the side, because if we have a look, the center of mass of this thing will be roughly there. So when I want to place my RCS on, it's kind of hard to place them up here. So what I do is I actually get these struts and kind of build it all along here. So that's what I'm going to do now. Let's change this to 90 degrees snap. So we can just do that. That's wonderful. This is going to add a little bit of mass, but it's not a huge amount. It's not a massive a massive deal, I guess you could say. Right, so yep, let's get rid of that, and then let's just inset them all so they all fit together rather snugly. Turn our snap down to 3 so that we can do it in as small an increment as possible, and then just get those there like that. And then I'm going to come in, select this one, and we're just going to move it like that, so it fits nice and snugly in here. So what I want on these bottom ones, usually I wouldn't place these bottom ones, but as I have said, we do hope to be landing, so I would quite like some landing legs, because, well, I don't really want to be landing on the engine, if I'm particularly honest. It's rather fragile and we don't want to break it. Although it is definitely more than possible to land on Phobos and Deimos with just the engine because, yeah, their masses are so small that you are moving at very slow speeds indeed. So yeah, now that I've got those legs on, I am going to tweak scale these down as well. So we're gonna make them, I think, let's make them about 60%. So not quite as low as 50, but a little bit bigger. And there we go. That looks whoa, what happened to our parabolic antenna? Why has that gone all over there? Okay, let's get that back in where it should be. Sweet. Antennas weigh an awful lot, and speaking of, let's get rid of the UHF antenna on this because we won't need that when we're out to Mars. We'll have a low Earth antenna on our transfer stage, which we will be dealing with all of our chatting and communicating needs when we're actually in low Earth orbit. Right, let's retract these. Okay, so now that I've got that, obviously I am going to want some RCS on here so we can actually control this. That RCS thruster has absolutely no gimbal whatsoever, so we cannot control our direction, so we are going to need some RCS thrusters. We'll get in there, we will change that to Aerosine 50 and NTO as well. Just seems to be the config that I have been going with. Seems to be the best to me. I can't see any downsides of using it, so I think I am going to use it forever until someone comes along and corrects me and says I'm doing this completely wrong. So yes, right. Anyway, that's our RCS done on there. We've got 3,510 meters per second, so we need about 2,500 meters per second to capture at Mars. And then we are obviously going to need to do a few transfers to the 2 asteroids that orbit Mars. So I'm gonna, this won't have as much delta V as it does at the moment. Obviously we need to go in and we need to add some scientific experiments and do all of that stuff, because once we get to Phobos and Deimos, we are going to want to actually study them and all of that. So the weight for this will be coming down. So let's go into Show Tank UI. I just sorted that out. So yeah, let's change that down to 20 electric charge. And now we can come in and we can start putting things like the RTGs on. So let's get this to 90. I'm going to have 2 of these on, and I'm just going to fit those snugly inside those structural girders. I think it kind of tucks them away in a nice little position that looks rather nice. So that's cool. Okay, right, let's configure our experiments on here first. So I have heard mention that, well, if we go in here, let's find one that actually does it. So infrared radiometer 2, it says it includes experiments infrared radiometry 1. However, on Kerbalism screen, when you try and activate them, it will only have the second iteration of these experiments. I don't know if that second iteration, obviously it contains more science, so I'm wondering if that more science also includes the science that you would get from the first iteration of that experiment. So someone did mention that it does do all of this. So what I'm going to do, I'm not going to bother going for infrared radiometer 1. I'm just going to put this on, and then hopefully that means, well, we shouldn't need as much scientific equipment on here. I have unlocked a fair whack more of science recently, such as like the mass spectrometer number 3. So we want to try and avoid putting things on here that we don't really need. So infrared spectrometer, yes, we want one of those. And then I'm going to go for the basic TV camera, because that thing is very large and I would rather have it in the actual probe core. It kind of means that we don't have to get this massive kind of unwieldy thing and stick it somewhere where it's kind of hard to find out where to stick it. So obviously we're going to go with some magnetometers. I'm going to place these, I think I'll place these just there. Yeah, that seems to be usually where my magnetometers go anyway. We've got a mass spectrometer already on this thing. We do not have a cosmic ray science experiment, so a radiation experiment on this thing. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to place 2 down at the bottom just like that. I think that will do us rather nicely. Maybe inset those in a tiny bit. Okay. So we've unlocked the plasma wave detector, which obviously it's new science that we are going to be doing, and we will place, I think we'll get a couple of those and they can just go in there like that. Yep, that's fine. We need a micrometeorite detector. obviously these things are going to be in orbit and potentially landed, so we're going to need all of the science that we can, because we are going to be in pretty much every single situation. Space low, space high, landed. The only thing we won't be is flying low or flying high, because obviously Phobos and Deimos don't have atmospheres. So that will be the only situation that we won't really encounter. So where am I going to place these micrometeorite detectors? I think we'll place 2 up there like that. Now, I know you only need 1, but it's just for symmetry, really. I want to keep my center of mass in line with my center of thrust as much as possible, because, like I said, this engine doesn't gimbal, so it can end up going all over the place if your center of mass is slightly offset. That's why I put 2 of these experiments around everywhere. It just makes it a lot easier to keep that center of mass dead center. So yeah, that's why I do all of this. And yeah, I know you only need 1, but I do want to try and, yeah, keep that center of mass as close as possible to the actual center of this spacecraft. Right, so what else do we need? Orbital perturbation experiment. So we will get a couple of those, and I think they can go nearby our RTG. I don't think these do anything with radiation, do they? Because that's one thing. Like, you can see I've placed this cosmic ray Geiger counter right at the bottom of the craft, about as far away from this RTG as possible. Now, you don't have to do that, but it's just, you think these things are going to be producing radiation. They are nuclear kind of power, thermo... Wow, what does it stand for? Where are we? Hang on. RTG, radio something, radio isotope generator. Yes, so yeah, they are producing radiation. So obviously this is a radiation detector. We would have all kinds of flawed readings if we were to place those right by those RTGs. So yeah, that's why I try to kind of get those as far away from, as far away as possible from each other as I can, just for a little bit of realism, I guess. So, right, what else do we need? We need thermometers and barometers. Not that I imagine we'll be measuring much pressure when we are actually at Phobos and Deimos, but you know, it's an experiment that we can run. Let's try and get this in. We still, I'm not entirely sure where that went. Oh, it just went in there. Okay, that's fine. That is fine. So, and we need a barometer, and yeah, let's just stick these just underneath the antenna. Okay, sweet. So let's get rid of all of these overlays. And I think that is mostly us done for this science. So I think the first iteration of these probes that I did was I sent a probe to Mercury, which will be coming up in 1963 part 2, I believe. So you'll see that in 1963 part 2. I think this is, yeah, well, we are in 1964 part 2 now, I guess. I have been playing a lot of Kerbal. I kind of got a little bit carried away with actually playing it, and yeah, well, I got to go in and do a lot of editing, but I've got all the footage, and 1963 part 2 is all edited. I just need to do the voiceover, so that shouldn't take too long, and hopefully that will come up not much later than this video. Right, so anyway, I digress. I get a little bit distracted. So one other thing that I want to do is, obviously, I want to stick some lights on this just so that we can see it and kind of it not look rather dingy and dark. So I think I'm going to place 4 lights on the bottom here, and then we're going to place another 4 maybe somewhere closer to the top, maybe on there. That looks like it will do us fine. And I want to place some cameras on because I really like the look of some of these cameras, and we'll place those there. Obviously, the landing legs are in the way at the moment, but once they are retracted, oh, they're still kind of in the way, actually. Yeah, no, we'll get these up just a tad. We'll move these up. So, although now that is well, it's well in the way of that RCS. Okay, right. Oh, that's why. Let's place these a little bit further up there. So we got those cameras, and then I'm going to place a science camera on this side, and then, oh, no, I want it there. A science camera on this side, and then we'll place a night vision camera on the other side, just because, you know, it's matching symmetry and all of that, and it's 2 different camera types. These, obviously, they don't actually do anything. It just means you can get some really cool camera shots. These nav cams are black and white and all fuzzy, like CCTV kind of imagery. Science Cam is basically just a camera like the regular camera in the game, and the night vision cam turns everything green as you would expect from a night vision camera. So yeah, I think that's all I'm going to place on there. I think that's everything that I want. Okay, so that's that done. So we are going to quickly just come in and make this a little bit shinier, because obviously I like making these all as shiny as possible. So let's just do that, and that. Now we've still got 3,000 meters per second of delta V, so that's looking rather nice. What are we weighing? We're weighing just under a ton. So yeah, I think that should be more than enough to capture at Mars. However, I do think we are going to want a bit more of it. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to use this stage to kind of make our maneuvers around Mars, and then we're going to have another stage that is going to do most of the capturing. And then I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of figure out kind of how much fuel I want in each stage once I get the Mars transfer stage all done, so I can get it to about as close as possible. I think if I quickly go in here, Mars, it's going to take us about 4,000 meters per second of delta V to actually make our transfer to Mars, so that'll be something that we come to when we come to it. Anyway, let's get ourselves a little payload adapter and make sure we are only on one symmetry. I think we're going to change this down to about 2 meters, and then we will get ourselves a modular integral tank, whack that up to 2 meters, keep that length 1, make it the best tank that we can possibly make it. You are the best tank, you are wonderful. And then I'm going to place a mount on it, and this is kind of the generic design that I've been going for my kind of capture stages at the moment. So we have just this that looks like this, and then we're going to go and grab an AJ10 series advanced, whack it in there, offset it in slightly, just like that, and there we go. That will be our capture stage. Okay, sweet. So obviously we're going to fill this up with more aerosine and NTO, something that the AJ10 Advanced engine uses, aerosine and NTO, so we don't have to worry about RCS configuration. We can just whack some more RCS thrusters on here that are going to be using aerosine and NTO. Right. Okay, so that gets us 4,500 meters per second of delta V. I think we might not need that much. We'll see. We will see. How much burn time is that giving us? That's 388 seconds. Okay, and we are on 5.8 tons. And you know what? I think what I might do is I might see if we can get this up to 6 tons, and then not even worry about a procedural avionics on this stage. No, we can be completely controlled by the final little probe core that's up here. Yeah, that should do us absolutely wonderfully. So yes, that's 5.91 tons. Okay, cool. So what else do I need on this stage? We are going to need some RCS to actually control this, because at the moment it has absolutely none. I think I'm going to go for one smaller, the 6911 class. Let's see. I think that should do us fine. We don't need to particularly move very quickly with this, so yeah, we'll go with that. And obviously upgrade that, change it to aerosine and NTO, and then upgrade it to the best configuration that we can possibly be. Okay, so that looks to be our stage that will get to Mars all done. Okay, right, so this, obviously, I'm going to name it and save it now. So the Super Mario 64. And what was the ship description? So yes, it was the survey probe for exploration and reconnaissance. That doesn't look like it's spelt right. That looks a bit better. Reconnaissance of Mars's asteroids, rocks, and other interesting objects. 1964. Four, there we go, 1964. So the Super Mario 64. So yes, this is the build episode for Super Mario 64. Okay, sweet, save. And yeah, now we just need our Transmars stage. So something that I have done as well, in my sub-assemblies, what I have gone and done is, you can see I have Pegasus 1 and Pegasus 2. So rather than rebuilding this transfer stage every single time, I've actually made this as a subassembly to kind of save a little bit of time. So what's that getting us? That is getting us 3,125 meters per second of delta V. That is not enough. That is clearly not enough to get us to where we want it to be. So yeah, we're gonna have to probably kill some of the fuel that we have in this stage. So let's get this down until we hit 4,000 on that stage. So we go for about, where do we want to go? 53, 52, 52, 50, 51, 52, 51, 51. So we get 4,000 meters per second on this transfer stage with that. So that looks like it's going to do us fine. We almost get 10,000 meters per second of delta V. So Mars only takes about 6,000 to capture, I think, to get there and then to capture. So we're going to have 4,000 meters per second extra. So I'm fairly certain we might be able to go to both Phobos and Deimos and land on them both with this thing. So yeah, I think this should be fine. And actually, I'm fairly convinced that is the finish of the build. So let's have a look. Avionics are more than sufficient. So actually, what we can do is we can probably get some of these down. So that might even give us more delta V. Let's get this down to 5 tons. Nope, that's a little bit too much. So let's get that up to 6. There we go. Avionics are sufficient. Let's just make sure that these have transferred across properly. Aerosine and NTO, yep, that looks fine. Obviously, I am going to go and test this and make sure everything runs perfectly. And I'm sure, is there anything else? It's only got, that's, I'm gonna just raise the electric charge on that just a little bit because I think that was a little bit too low. So, right, that's the correct tank type that we want for that. And, utilization. Okay, so that's new. I don't know why that was set all the way down to 1. I'm fairly sure I didn't do that, but okay, well, that's what it said anyway. We've got all of our scientific experiments. We've got rid of the antenna. We've got our electric charge in there that we are going to need. These are all set up in their correct configuration. We've got our landing legs, we've got our lights, we've got our cameras. We don't have our action yet. That will come when we launch this thing. And we've got our transfer stage, we've got our capture stage. Yeah, I'm thinking that looks pretty much done to me. So what are we weighing? We're weighing 12.2 tons. Let's go down the sub-assemblies list and see if we can find a rocket. Icarus 2 is looking like it's going to be the one. 14 tons to low Earth orbit. I don't think... Yeah, no, I'm fairly certain that that is going to be what we go for. So let's get Icarus 2. And we will place this onto the Super Mario 64. And that actually looks like it fits just about bang on perfectly. Let's take one of these off and just set it down to one-time symmetry. And yeah, look at that. That is such a perfect fit. That couldn't have been a better fit. So there we go. Let's get this up just so that we are not launching whilst we are in the ground, because we wouldn't want to do that. And we are going to change this color so that it matches that. So where is the color? Light gray. That's looking good, and I think, yeah, that's looking very good indeed. Now, obviously, well, we're going to save it again, and we need to make sure our staging is correct. So we want these E1 engines to fire at the start. We want all of the launch pad section to detach once these engines get going. Then we're going to want this interstage to fire. So where is that interstage? It's there, and we're going to go at the same time as those separation motors. And the LH2, LR87 LH2 vacuum is going to fire at the same time. Then we're going to lose the fairings. Then we're going to lose the then we're going to get rid of the payload and we're going to send the launch vehicle hopefully crashing back down to Earth. Okay, so I think actually, yeah, that is us done. Let's just double check and make sure that we've got an antenna on here, because that would be terrible if we didn't. Yes, we do. Sweet. So we're going to have to replace our fairings ejection section back in. Oh well, not that that's the end of the world. I think that's where it should go. Right, save. I think that is us done. Let's have a look. What's the tooling going to cost us? So that's the wrong button. 28 days. It will take 28 days to build at our best build time. But unfortunately, we are not going to be building it at our best build time because, well, there is something that I am building at my best build time, which we will see shortly. And actually, this isn't going to be the only mission that I send to Mars in this Mars transfer window. I am hopefully going to try and send 2 missions at the same time. So 28,000, that's not too bad. So yeah, I'm going to try and send 2 missions. This will be the second one. The first one is going to be a little, well, they're both exciting in their own regards. I guess you could say this is going to be orbiting Phobos and Deimos and landing at Phobos and Deimos. But the other one looks cooler. The other one is definitely going to be the cool mission, the one that we will talk about for aeons to come and all of that. So, right, sweet. So, yeah, we've tooled it. We've done everything. Let's go into Crash and test this thing out and make sure everything works as it should do. So we're on the launch pad now, so yeah, let's test this thing out. So once again, we're just going to use MechJeb to do our launch, and we're going to test all of the components. So yeah, this is one weird thing. For some reason, when I use the mouse wheel, it's changing my field of view rather than actually zooming in and out. I'm not sure what's happened there, but oh well. Let's see if we can deal with it. Okay, so I'm going to launch this thing, and I will be back momentarily as soon as the noisy part of the launch is out of the way. So yeah, as soon as I launched it, I could actually start zooming in and out again, which is really nice. And you know what's also really nice? It's finally cooled down. It's not ridiculous temperatures anymore. We've had a few storms where I live over the past few days, and it's really cooled the air, which is rather pleasant. Another thing as well, we've got some really good news. We've finally, well, it's in the news today that obviously with all of COVID and all of that, indoor live music venues are opening up again, which is something really exciting for me, especially because I do sing in a band. I am the lead singer for a band that I am in, and we've got some gigs coming up, and we weren't sure if we were going to be able to play them or not because of all of the rules with lockdown and all of that. But no, that's something that's really exciting that I'm really looking forward to as well. Very excited to get back into playing with my band. It's been something that I've really been missing out on over the whole course of lockdown, and yeah, very exciting. And another thing as well, other live music is of course opening up, and I did have some tickets to go and see a band in October, a UK band. They've just released a new album called Enter Shikari, and one of my all-time favorite bands. Very different, but yeah, so I'm very excited that I should be able to go and see them now as well, because it's just been something that I guess generally the whole world has been missing out on with everything that's been going on. And I've personally not really gone out much at all over summer because I'm diabetic, and yeah, I just wanted to try and avoid the whole COVID thing as much as I could. So yeah, it's nice to finally be able to get out and about and just get back on with life, I guess. Yeah, that's something that I've been looking forward to for a while, but it looks like the launch was fine. This launch vehicle is more than capable of taking this rocket up into orbit. Now comes the part where we actually check everything and make sure that it all works fine. So let's just set this to prograde so that RCS seems to be configured correctly. And let's fire this up, make sure that our Centaur stage, well, no, it's not even our Centaur stage. I have named this thing. This thing does have an actual name. It is the Pegasus upper stage. I guess I kind of went with Centaur being a mythological beast. Well, half man, half horse, and I kind of changed it to be a horse with wings, I guess. So yeah, that's kind of where I got the name Pegasus from. So this all looks like it is working fine. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to burn this as much as possible because I want to get my Apple apps up really high, because obviously on this stage here, we don't have a antenna that is going to be able to talk to Earth. It's S-band antenna, so we need to be quite far away from Earth to actually have this thing working. So I'm going to burn this out as much as I can, and then we're going to detach this and just check that everything all works in deep space. I think it should. I'm fairly certain that I've done everything. I might actually take the flag off of that because that flag looks a little bit stretched out. But my actual flag that I designed for this series, so obviously we can see CSA, Carnasa Space Agency on there. I went into, well, GIMP, the Photoshop, the free Photoshop equivalent, and definitely not product placement there, and went in and designed a kind of Mars looking thing. I was really pleased with how this turned out, like really pleased with how this turned out. So, well, anyway, what I was trying to say is that this is kind of really fitting for this series of missions because these missions are going to Mars. So yeah, the flag really works in this situation. So it looks like our apoapse is getting really kind of out of the way of Earth now, and any minute now we should be crossing into interplanetary space. There we go, we are now in interplanetary space. So once we have, I'm gonna let this thing burn to the end because we might as well. Then we will detach this, time warp a little bit ahead, and just make sure that everything works as it should. I think I've got MLI layers on this stage. So yep, we do have MLI layers. Cool, that was really hard to say really quickly. Okay, so let's cut that, and then we will detach this. And obviously we have now lost control because that antenna can't talk to Earth at the moment, and it can't talk to any of my satellites that are in low Earth orbit. That communications network that I set up in 1960, it's still going strong, and it looks like we are floating into our transfer stage. That's not good. That's really not good, so we're going to have to wait until we're kind of clear of that stage before we come out of time warp. Otherwise, that could lead to some very Kraken-esque events, and, well, that wouldn't be the worst because this is just a simulation, but obviously this is a simulation for a reason. I am trying to test out everything on this spacecraft. Hopefully we should get control relatively soon, I think. Come on, there we go, we have control. So let's set ourselves once again to prograde. And, well, this aerosine, these RCS thrusters obviously are working fine, and they seem to be turning our spacecraft at a relatively quick speed. So I was a little bit worried that these might be a little bit too small, but no, they seem to be really decent and are more than capable for turning this spacecraft around. Let's just make sure that this AJ-10 Advanced works as it should. Looks like we are moving. Yep, that all seems to be working rather well. Okay, so now that we've done that, we're just going to detach this final stage, and it seems to, everything looks gravy. Everything is working as it should be. Okay, so yeah, I think that's that all done. That is that all done. So yeah, I don't think we need to worry about burning this to its full burn. You can see it's got 1,700 seconds of burn time. So that's what, half an hour almost? I think it's 3,600 seconds in an hour. So just under half an hour. So yeah, that's a really long burn time. But then, like I said, this will be just used to be transferring between Phobos and Deimos and that, so we don't really need it to burn particularly quickly. Okay, so yeah, we're going to kill that, and we are going to go back to the vehicle assembly building. Right, so yeah, that was the end of Super Mario 64, the our little spacecraft that will be going to Phobos and Deimos and doing all kinds of interesting scientific experiments over there. So yeah, that will be the end of this episode. If you have enjoyed this episode, why not give it a like? If you have really enjoyed this episode and would like to continue with the content on my channel, please do go and subscribe. I have been Carnasa, and I will see you later.